Welcome to another episode of On the Horizon of Heaven. Today, I'm going to talk about a person of heroic virtue, Msgr.Joseph Kandathil, who is otherwise known as the Damien of Kerala, which means the powerful man of the people. A young priest of age 33 who committed his life to God and to his brethren. He listened to the voice of God, reflected, and brought it in action. When you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. These verses became the strength for his future plan in his helpless time, turned as fire in his heart and wisdom for his memory. God also prepared him to do these services from his childhood and molded him for the same during his seminary studies. He heard the helpless cry of lepers, who were the least and last of the society of that time. First few years he nursed himself, and then with help of some sisters from other congregation. In 1949, he founded the congregation called Assisi Sisters of Mary Immaculate, ASMI congregation, to help the leprosy patients. He extended his mission wherever it is needed, like schools for deaf, blind, and mentally challenged. His eyes always turned to the needy. He neither published his services nor allowed anyone to do it. Father Joseph Kandathil was born on October 27, 1904. His parents were Mr. Thomas Kandathil and Mrs. Clara Thotukal. He was their third son. He was baptized on November 3, 1904 at St. Mary's Church, Vechur, Vaikam. He did his schoolings at Government LP School, Edayaram, Government Boys School, Vaikam, and St. Mary's High School, Aluva. On the completion of his high school studies successfully, he expressed his deep desire to be a priest to his uncle, the Archbishop of Ernakulam, Mar Agustin Kandathil, with a request to be admitted in the minor seminary for priestly studies. His request was granted, and he joined the minor seminary at Ernakulam in the year 1925 with the blessings of his uncle, late Archbishop Mar Agustin Kandathil. He completed his priestly ordination at Mangalapuram, St. Joseph's Seminary. While he was at Mangalapuram, he used to go and visit the leprosy patients at Father Muller's Hospital, Mangalore, which was nearby. 1st March 1934, Father Joseph was appointed as Assistant Vicar to St. Mary's Church, Muttam, Cherthala. The sight of a tall, lean young priest with an umbrella and a bag in his hand coming all alone to take charge of his office was a curious sight to the parishioners. They looked in admiration at the strange young priest who looked somehow extraordinary to them. He entered the church, prayed for some time, and went to the parish priest and paid his respect and sought his blessings before taking charge as assistant. Immediately after taking charge, Father Joseph started his pastoral work in right earnestness. At the time, there were no proper roads in Cherthala, and it was not an easy task to visit houses. But this did not stop Father Joseph from visiting the homes of all people, irrespective of their caste and creed. He trod the hot sands of Cherthala to visit every houses in the parish boundary. He understood their poverty and diseases, which made the life of ordinary people miserable. He could not close his eyes at the sad plight. He approached the well-to-do people of the locality and explained to them the poverty and misery of the people in general. He requested their help. Most of them contributed voluntarily money, clothes, and foodstuffs to this young zealous priest. The following note is from his diary. I saw leprosy patients also in some places without anybody to help them. Some were dying abandoned by all. Many of the lepers were suffering with foul-smelling ulcers and oats, even covered with worms. Nobody cared for these unfortunate people. Father Joseph was touched by the sight, and he remembered the words of the Lord. As long as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. And I was sick, and you cared for me. The sympathetic and compassionate heart of Father Joseph was shaken and was ready to care for these people. He gave them not only spiritual solace, but also medicine and other material helps. All people respected and loved him. The people welcomed him eagerly into their homes, and all were very much concerned by his visit and help. By his great effort, and with the help of the catechist, Mr. Anthony, he could convert about 600 people to Christianity. Thus, the conversion work at Muttam was very much progressing. He organized prayer centers to foster devotion to our Mother Mary. These centers gradually developed into parish churches in due course of time. Along with these activities, he also encouraged adult literary centers, especially in places where there were no schools. His next main goal was to open medical centers. At that time, there was hardly any medical help available for common people in Cherthala. Father Joseph decided to do something in this regard. He rented a building near the Carmelite convent in Muttam and started dispensing homeo medicines to patients. But gradually, he realized that allopathic medicine was more effective, and so he sent his helper, Mr. P.J. Anthony, for 6 months of medical training. In the absence of him, Father Joseph continued the medical service by himself, but it was too much for him. So he sought the help of some sisters from the neighboring Carmelite convent. He also started an orphanage adjacent to his medical center. The absence of trained nurses was a hindrance to his medical services. So, Msgr.Joseph Kandathil, the director of Dharmagiri Sisters, made arrangements for sisters for training in nursing and midwifery in Bangalore. After their return, the medical service continued more vigorously and efficiently. After some time, he opened a dispensary in Muttam Bazaar, and for a year the dispensary worked there. Father Joseph's sense of cleanliness, punctuality, and commitment to work and the spirit of prayer touched the hearts of co-workers. From May 1942, some sisters from SD Convent, Chunangamveli, came to help him, so he relieved the Carmelite sisters. In his dispensary, Father Joseph also started dispensing medicine to the leprosy patients and dressed their wounds. This caused an inflow of leprosy patients into Muttam Bazaar. This exasperated the residents. They feared that the whole locality would soon be affected with leprosy germs. So, they opposed Father Joseph's work of helping the leprosy patients. He understood the mentality of the people. Nevertheless, he wanted to continue the work without harassing the people. So, he went and talked to the bishop. At first, he was against it, but later, seeing Father Joseph's deep interest, he allowed him to open a center. And so, Father Joseph started searching for places that is far away from Muttam, and he found a land in a place called Anachiraveli. But the landlord was not ready to sell his place. Father Joseph came to know that this person had some worries because he had no children. So Father said to this person that he will pray for him. Father Joseph was very adamant about the land, so the landlord decided to give him the half of the land, and later after a year, Father Joseph's prayer came true. This landlord had a child. Father Joseph used this place to treat the lepers, which was named as Green Gardens. With a growing patience, Father Joseph was not able to manage all by himself with only few people to help. So he had a thought of starting his own congregation of sisters for helping the leprosy patients. But Father Joseph had not yet a clear idea of the congregation which he wanted to start. He began to pray and think deeply about it. Father Joseph writes regarding an experience that supported and strengthened his desire. He writes, "I was preaching a retreat to the Carmelite sisters. I was also making a retreat myself. One day, after an hour of adoration before the Blessed Sacrament, I went to sleep. During the sleep, I had a vision. I saw crucified Christ embracing St. Francis of Assisi. Up to that time, I had not cherished any special devotion to St. Francis of Assisi, but this vision changed my mind. I began to study more deeply the life and work of St. Francis of Assisi. The Spirit made him realize that the new religious congregation which the Lord wanted him to found should be a Franciscan congregation, drawing inspiration from the spirit and charism of St. Francis of Assisi. He continued his prayers. He especially sought the intercession of Mary Immaculate and Little Flower for the foundation of the congregation. Father Joseph went again to meet the Archbishop and requested him to give religious habits to the few girls he was forming. This time, the Archbishop Mar Augustine Kandathil gave him an encouraging word and an oral permission to start the congregation. The postulants shifted their residence from SH Convent to the newly constructed Assisi Convent on April 2, 1949, and thus the congregation was officially inaugurated that day. Father Joseph wanted that the congregation be founded as a souvenir of the sacerdotal Golden Jubilee of His Holiness Pope Pius XI. Since the Assisi sisters should be under the guidance and protection of Mary Immaculate, and each sister ought to be another Mary, giving Jesus to the world. Therefore, Father Joseph gave this name to the congregation. He wanted the Mother Mary should be the governing mother of the congregation. Therefore, he insisted that the superiors of the Assisi congregation should not be called mother, but each superior should act in the name of Mary Immaculate. On December 12, 1991, morning sun rose on the east with a special brightness to see this heroic priest one more day on this earth. At 5:30 p.m., one of the sisters noticed that Father's eyes were flickering, and she sent a word to the doctor. Father Thomas Mullavarakal reached together with the doctor. Father Thomas then administered the sacrament of the anointing of the sick, and doctor was trying to bring him back to life, but it was in vain, and Father breathed his last breath peacefully. A tomb had been prepared by the sisters in SH Perpetual Adoration Chapel. His Eminence Anthony Cardinal Padiyara, the Archbishop of Ernakulam, said a celebrated Mass, and the body was laid to rest on December 14. Msgr.Joseph Kandathil Memorial Cancer Research Center is dedicated to the memory of him, which is a prestigious project of Assisi Sisters of Mary Immaculate for the development and creation of affordable, quality, comprehensive oncology services to the needy, all under one roof. Thus, now having the living memories of the saintly life of a heroic charity lived in humanity and obscurity, his whole life can be summarized in one sentence: he met Jesus in the poor. Thank you.